Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton with Big C. This is Charlton and Big C Sports coming to you worldwide on the Big C Sports Network, the number one network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the number one sports show in the universe, according to Big C and them good old boys down south. I want to say bienvenidos to all of our listeners across the pond in London, England, as well as Paris, France. And, of course, you good old boys in Canada. You know we love you in Canada. But, Big C, there's no one we love more than you good old boys down south in the land of the free and the home of the brave on this beautiful November 28th. Big C, how's it going for you good old boys?
Well, Charlton, I walked outside this morning. I thought I was dreaming of a white Christmas. Everything was white outside. I'm like, wait a minute, I had to go back in the house and try to remember where I was.
Oh, so the Donald Trump administration showed up outside and you thought it was snow. Is that what you're saying, Big C?
I didn't know whether it was Trump or the weather that it showed up.
That's so funny. I was listening to some good old boys that were talking about some things with Trump and how the White House, obviously, when we look at the United States of America, the land of the free, the home of the brave, and we're supposed to be this melting pot, and then he has this tribute to some Native Americans, and he's talking about Pocahontas, and he has his issues with other members of Congress, or no matter
Senator
who.
Warren.
Yeah.
Senator Warren from Massachusetts.
Yeah, and so I just think on a day where everybody jumps on Trump, sometimes you just got to call a spade a spade. We all know that he's not a decent person, and especially when he could be paying more homage to Native Americans, he uses the same thing that he's been doing all along his trail. How can I offend the next person? I don't know why people are still surprised with it. One guy that I am proud of is Don Lemon for CNN. I think that Trump was saying something about Fox News is the only news that's real news and everybody else is fake, because Fox News is the only one that won't ask people to Google what the president says. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, they shine his shoes for him, Charlton, on a daily basis, and also put the mousse in his hair to keep it in
Oh, yeah.
but you think about news outlets, Charlton. They are out there to be honest with the public.
Yeah.
And, Fox News is honest with his base.
Yeah.
They're going to tell his base what they want him to hear. Matter of fact, when he gets up in the morning and tweets, it's because he was watching Fox News on, that delayed programming system that people have on their TV. I don't know what it is. I don't have one. Only delay I got is when I go to sleep.
Yeah, I understand.
When you look at him this morning, Charlton, because of the insensitive remarks that he made. Now, you think about it. They've had high schools change their names from Redskins, across the country.
Yeah.
The Stanford Cardinals, who just beat,
Notre Dame
over the weekend. They were the Stanford Indians for years before they became the Stanford Cardinals.
Yeah.
And so all the high schools have abolished that Indian name, as they say, is a racist connotation, and should not, be there. Even the Redskins have been in a lawsuit over the name of the Washington Redskins, Charlton.
Yeah.
But for him to use this moment where you're honoring, and I think it's only 22 of the code talkers left from World War II.
Yeah.
This rich native heritage of America, the original Americans, Charlton, to take this point and to have this press conference also held in front of the poster of Andrew Jackson.
Yep.
Okay?
Yep.
The president who ostracized the Native Americans and created the Trail of Tears.
Yeah.
When he put all of them on reservations, Charlton, and said this is where they are. He sent them off to die into the most blemished lands in America.
Yep.
And hoping that would do it so that he wouldn't have to do it personally.
Yeah.
But to have, this ceremony in front of his portrait was also denigrating, Charlton, to that race of people.
Yeah.
But to make that statement, and we're talking about the Cherokee Indians who he was supposed to be honoring, and he's talking about Pocahontas, which is another tribe, Charlton.
Yeah.
That would basically be calling all Asians one. They would be calling Koreans Japanese, Japanese, Koreans, Chinese, Japanese, Filipinos, Chinese, Charlton. When you look at an origin of people, this is how unsensitive and unknowledgeable he is as a person. I'm not saying as a president, as a person.
Yeah, I agree.
He doesn't think about anybody beyond himself. And Charlton tried to buffer from the embarrassment that he put in the White House yesterday. He gets up this morning tweeting about the NFL.
Again?
He went from attacking one culture, Charlton, of ethnic people in America,
yeah,
to basically attacking another culture, the black people in the NFL. He wasn't attacking the white players, Charlton.
Well, when you think about Jackson, also that statue that he's in front of and loves so much, that the same Jackson is the one that vetoed the bill for black Americans doing the Emancipation Proclamation to be given 40 acres and a mule. He vetoed that bill and gave the land to white landowners. That's one of the reasons Donald Trump daddy had so much money, because of that system of oppression that was set up that Donald Trump is very, very proud of. And it's still, even with that, there's some knucklehead people that voted for him that he wanted to be oppressed. When you think about that, I still think about there's a pageant that's going to be on tonight. I think it's Miss Universe. Think about that, the Miss Universe pageant. Okay, I love the Miss Universe pageant. But I think that, I don't know if it's Steve Harvey or who it was, but when they realized that Jackson, the one who vetoed the bill to give black Americans that were free to Emancipation Proclamation 40 acres and a mule, and he gave it back to white landowners. And then you have guys like Harvey that go and they'll go meet with this man in private. For what reason? So he could pat them on the back and say, thanks for not bringing out who I really am. Anyway, everybody, sometimes people just don't read. But I do want to applaud CNN because they're starting to tell people to Google it. Okay, I heard it a couple times last night. Just Google it. And I just want to say this segment sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers, home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard of the world. And when you go by and test drive yours, tell them Big C sent you. So Big C, I know there's so much going on in this world of sports, and I love the fact that almost every day I can listen to other sports programs, and usually they talk about football for the whatever 30 minutes to an hour, or they'll talk about basketball 30 minutes to an hour. They don't talk about golf and then boxing and then MMA and then hockey and soccer and everything the way we do, and then a little bit of politics. Give me your thoughts on Tiger Woods golfing with POTUS. Does Tiger Woods read? I mean, a lot of people say, well, we got to respect the president, but I know Tiger doesn't think he's subject to the stop and frisk that they want to implement again. But does Tiger Woods read, Big C? I just want to be real about that. Your thoughts?
Well, ironically, Tiger Woods was the one golfer who was polarized out there on the golf course. Dustin Johnson was out there along with the guy who won the Masters a couple of times out of Georgia. Lefty golfer. His name evades me at the moment, Charlton. But they were out there playing.
Yeah.
Donald Trump showed up with them.
Oh, really?
It was what he did. They were on his golf course playing.
Okay.
They all live down in Florida.
Yeah.
Donald Trump showed up to make it look like he was playing golf with these guys, Charlton.
Okay.
So he took the photo out and blasted Tiger's name out there, because Tiger's name is bigger than Dustin Johnson. And Justin's been playing.
Yeah.
And you think about Bubba Watson was the third golfer out there, Charlton.
Yeah.
And he's won a couple of Masters.
Yeah.
But he didn't know who Bubba Watson was. He didn't know who Dustin Johnson was.
Right.
So he said, I'm playing golf with Tiger Woods.
Right.
To make it look like he's... And, as a professional golfer, Charlton, the president shows up.
Yeah.
Everybody was showing their respect by going up, shaking his hand.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
They were already on the course when he showed up to these guys and took the photobomb opportunity to say, hey, I'm playing golf with Tiger Woods.
Yeah, that's funny.
He took this opportunity to make himself seem like they wanted him to play with.
Yeah.
These are professional golfers out there, Charlton, working against each other. You're working against the best.
Yep.
You don't want some scab golfer coming out there joining you, because it doesn't enhance your game in any kind of way.
Yeah.
He's not going to drive the ball 350 yards like these guys do, Charlton. He's not going to chip and putt like any of them. Even Tiger on his worst day.
Yep.
He's not going to play in that realm. So think about it. You had Dustin Johnson, who's one of the top golfers on the PGA.
Yep.
You had the other gentleman who has won the Masters twice,
yep.
Bubba Watson.
Bubba, yep.
And you use Tiger, who hasn't done anything in a decade. But you use Tiger's name because you think that that's going to galvanize you in the black sports world.
Yeah.
And say, okay, I got black golfers playing with me. There's only one black golfer out there, period.
Yeah.
But why was not Dustin Johnson recognized by the media?
Yeah.
Or Bubba Watson? That's what I look at.
Yeah.
But you use Tiger Woods and say, okay, we can make him a crossover guy because Tiger Woods is out here playing golf with him.
Yeah.
That was a threesome that was out there playing golf, Charlton.
Yeah.
That because they were on his golf course, he shows up and say, hey, I'm playing golf with Tiger Woods, who's not even on the PGA Tour, Charlton.
No, and I think obviously the grandstanding, and of course, however you feel about the president, he's still the president of the United States, but he just reminds me of as a kid of color growing up in this great country that we love so much. he reminds me of some good old boys that no matter how decent you were, they were still going to be a bigot. Okay, and a lot of people didn't call a bigot a bigot. That's how bigotry began. It continued to spread like a wildfire. We just had these fires out here in California. And ironically, the fire department would put out the fires as soon as they could. Even some of the local residents, when they saw the fire, they would try to put the fire out. But here we have POTUS. He tries to fan the flames. And that's why, I mean, someone made a point on one of the major news networks last night. It was CNN, and I'll say it. It was Don Lemon that I'm really respecting a lot more when I realize how erudite he is. And he says, what are we going to think in 10 years of how we sat back and let this fire continue to spread and no one put it out because they wanted some type of tax break? Big C, do you understand that? Does that make a lot of sense what he said?
Well, Charlton, even the tax break that he's looking at, that he's talking about, if the average citizen wants to sit back and look, this is a tax break for the top 1% of Americans, which he is in existence of, Charlton. Donald Trump has never thought about the little man in his existence. You think about how many small businesses that went broke behind doing business with Donald Trump when he was in the business world. That's the one thing he never talks about. That Donald Trump, in his private sector, ran over 4,000 private small businesses out of business, Charlton, because he would not pay the bills.
How many?
Think about that. Over 4,000 when he was in the casino business, in the construction business, Charlton, because he would tell the work is not up to quality. He'd end up paying somebody 30 to 40 cents on the dollar because they had to take the money, Charlton. They had extended themselves. He doesn't talk about that, how many lives and companies that he ruined. He's talking about he's going to give small businesses a break because they're the backbone of America. Think about how many small businesses that you bankrupt that were the backbone of America when you were in the private sector, Charlton. But when you think about this tax bill that they're proposing, Charlton, and this tax bill will hit every American who makes less than $75,000. Now, you think about Donald Trump's base. You think about those coal miners. You're going to tell me that those coal miners were making more than $70,000 a year in West Virginia, Charlton? No, they weren't. Or any other place in the country. So those people who went out that you see in these rallies, these retirees and all these people that go and make America great again, that's been out of work, you're not going to bring in jobs that's going to pay them $100,000. As much as he's talked about it and advocated for it, it does not exist in our society. Unfortunately, it would be nice. But how do you bring industry back into America when mechanism is taking over industry around the world?
That's a good point.
You can't give enough tax breaks to any corporate company in America to give up their foreign workforce. Where in Vietnam, when you have workers that are making $1.25 an hour that are working for Nike and every other big company that's in Vietnam, General Mills and
hold on. That's shocking to me. Are you saying that Nike that can get shoes made for $2 sell them for $200, they're not going to bring those jobs back to the country where they got to pay people a living wage like $15 to $20 an hour, Big C? Is that what you're saying?
Well, even in South Korea, Charlton, where there's so many U.S. companies, even in India. Have you ever called and made a reservation anywhere, Charlton, or even called in on your credit card?
Yeah, I sure have, Big C.
You need a translator, okay?
That's why I got it hooked up.
So you can build a wall, okay? But you can't cut the phone lines, and that's what he doesn't understand. Now, he talks about bringing jobs back to America. Ford and GM produce more cars in Mexico than they do in the U.S. Okay? So how are Ford and GM going to get those cars across the border once you build a wall? Well, we're going to have a shortage of cars in America. It's going to be like Cuban embargo, all right? Where no longer you can get a car in Cuba that's American-made. So when you talk about these things logistically, you need to understand, all of a sudden he's going to ban the NFL from playing in Mexico, Charlton?
Wow.
Is he going to do that? Is he going to ban the Mexican players, the basketball and football players, soccer players, from playing in America? You got to think about it. There's a large contingency of professional athletes from Mexico and even south of Mexico, Charlton, that have to come through that region to get to America.
Well,
all of these professional athletes are going to be banned now from coming in.
You know what's interesting, Big C? In California, for anyone who's been on the West Coast, Interstate 5, which is a federal highway, goes from the Canadian border, just south of Vancouver, all the way down to the Mexico border, just south of San Diego. I was talking to someone that was just driving down through San Diego, almost down to Tijuana. And if you've ever been down that way, they have these crossing areas where they have people with rifles, machine guns or whatever. And it's a military look coming from Mexico to the United States. I know they don't sell tourism that way, but that's what you cross. Well, the person I was talking to happened to be a Hispanic American who's about 55, 60 years old, somewhere in there, worked his whole life as a United States citizen, born and raised in the United States, but coming back from not even outside the United States, just coming back to the crossing coming in up to San Diego, he made a statement to me that most of the people that he saw that was stopped and they have the dogs come up to the car to smell to see if you got any of that. Who's that good old boy down in Miami, that Scarface? In case they bringing back some dolls, you know how to go out. You got to buy dolls in Mexico because they can't find them in the United States, big city. But he was saying that his own observation, most of the people they were stopping were Hispanic and then letting people go. Now, if they're still bringing drugs into the country and most of the people they're stopping are people of color and the drugs are still getting in, what ethnicity are they not stopping, Big C, that's bringing the drugs? Would that make any sense to you?
Well, Charlton, I look at the mule train, as they call them, the people who smuggle drugs into America.
I thought that was a real live animal. I'm so naive, Big C. Somebody asked me if I wanted to go get a ride on the mule train. I said, no, I don't like animals. And he looked at me like I was dumb. No, I do feel dumb, Big C. Your thoughts?
But, what I look at, Charlton, is he doesn't build a European wall.
No.
Okay? Now, that's where the opiate trail comes through.
Yep.
That mule trail comes through Europe, the opiate trail, okay? And he's talking about drugs in America.
Yeah.
They're not bringing opiates from Mexico.
Nope.
That's marijuana, which is legal in half the United States now.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
The opiates are what you have to worry about.
Yep.
The heroin. That's coming out of Europe and Asia.
Yeah.
But he's not talking about stopping the immigration from those countries.
No, not at all.
It's because, people are benefiting from it.
Yeah.
And marijuana, people are not out robbing people, Charlton, to use marijuana.
No.
It's the heroin. It's the Oxycontin that Rush Limbaugh and Jim Irsay use.
Yeah.
Those are the drugs. And, now it's an epidemic because white America is using opiates. At this catastrophic rate.
Well, but let me ask you this.
It's a health crisis. We got to get them help.
I want to ask.
The minorities, we got to put them in jail for using marijuana.
Well, we're Big C, and I'm glad you brought that point up. Remember, we just talked about POTUS out golfing, and Tiger Woods was in the area, so he happened to say he was golfing with Tiger. Well, when Tiger was having his back issues from having so many surgeries, and hooked on whatever medication he was on, people in the mainstream media made it seem like the world's greatest golfer, outside of the Jack, but Jack didn't have to do it in front of racism, in front of all that anger that Tiger faced. He was more relaxed. He didn't have people hating on him the way Tiger did. But when Tiger had his issues and have to have whatever substance he had, a lot of people made it seem like, look at him, he's on drugs. I forgot that Rush Limbaugh had his own issue, and we know Irsay had his issues, but they never played it that way. So where did Rush Limbaugh get his Oxycontin from, and why wasn't he labeled as a criminal? He was labeled as someone who has a medical issue, even as much as they tried to hide it. He still sweats a lot, Big C.
The owner of the Indianapolis Colts.
Yeah.
You got $27,000 of Oxycontin riding in your passenger seat.
Yeah.
Now, I'm hard pressed to find a doctor who's writing a prescription for $27,000 worth of Oxycontin in one run.
Would that be?
You get 30 days. Normally you get 30 days, maybe 2 pills a day at best. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we're talking maybe $100 prescription.
Right. Right.
$27,000 prescription, Charlton.
Yeah.
How do you get access to 20? That's trafficking. If you're a minority, you're hit with trafficking, okay?
Yeah.
Because you got $22,000 in cash, $27,000 in Oxycontin. And if you're a minority, you're looking at 10 years in prison for trafficking with the intent to distribute.
There's a good.
If you would have been an athlete, look at Nate Newton.
Yeah.
Former offensive guard, all-pro, Super Bowl winner with the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah.
Was caught with a few hundred pounds of marijuana. Didn't kill anybody, didn't run anybody over.
Right.
In a van.
Yeah.
He got prison time, Charlton.
Wow.
An African-American former athlete got prison time for that.
Yeah.
All right?
Yeah. And
so, you think about these things, and there's been plenty of other former athletes, Charlton, that have gotten prison time for using hard drugs or soft drugs.
Well, they have a...
If you're an owner or a white celebrity, you get, in-house,
counseling.
Yeah, that's what you get.
And I think
you don't get time.
Yeah, I think that's so powerful when you think about it, because again, it goes back to this thing with Tiger Woods and the president of all people saying that he's golfing with Tiger Woods. And Tiger had his own medical issues. Anyone who's ever been through a surgery, you're going to be in a lot of pain. You're going to do whatever it takes. But there's no excuse for driving while you're under the influence of anything. However, I just got to make that point again with my friend that came back from, he wasn't even in Mexico. He was just south of San Diego coming back. But they have these crossings. And just because you get across the state line doesn't mean you're free of being searched. Military style with these machine guns, and they have these dogs that come up and sniff on people. But they're stopping mostly people of color. They're not stopping the average Caucasian. And this is 2017. This is not 1940s. And when he brought that up, I thought about how Tiger is having this same issue that Rush Limbaugh had and that Irsay had. And the average American that has it now is a middle class or Caucasian. They want to give them counseling. But Tiger was almost labeled as, oh my God, he's breaking the law. Can you believe he's under the influence behind a car? And that's the same issue that we're trying to stop. Again, no one should do that. But based on the skin color, Big C is always treated differently. And I hope that Tiger Woods will be successful this time on his golf comeback. But we'll just have to wait to see how the surgery went on that. But I do want to touch on another thing that comes up with this issue with Tiger Woods. And you just mentioned, Bixie, we have some golf tournaments that have been happening, and no one's really paying attention to Jordan Spieth. No one's paying attention. Even, Phil Mickelson and Tiger used to be must-watch TV. It was must-see TV. Now even the POTUS, you know how he goes after his base? Tell me the last time he said something about wanting to be around a black guy outside of the golf to make it seem like he's one with him. Does that make any sense, Big C?
Well, Charlie, when you think about the top black athletes in America, whether it's football, basketball, baseball, because, like I said, Tiger Woods hasn't been on the scene in a few years.
No.
So, he's a passing athlete just like any other semi-retired athlete, Charlton.
Yep.
But like I said, this was an issue where the two guys that are active on the PGA Tour, he didn't know who they were. He didn't know who Bubba Watson was. He didn't know who Dustin Johnson was.
Yep.
He recognized Tiger Woods by color.
Yeah.
That's what he did. So he said, let me take the photo out. But there was Dustin Johnson standing there, Charlton.
Yeah.
Okay, along with Bubba Watson.
Yeah.
Very recent winners on the PGA Tour.
Yeah.
He didn't even know who they were, but he knew, people pointed out who the black guy was. So, let me take a photo bomb with him and text about it.
That guy, yeah.
So, that's how, he's out there looking for a headline to say that I'm with these guys, I'm part of this group. They just happen to be playing at his golf course because they live in the area, Charlton.
Well, that's
on vacation down there.
Yeah, that's interesting because obviously there's a lot more things he could do to show his inclusion, from going from David Duke endorsing that guy to say, hey, I'm golfing with Tiger now. Well, doesn't Tiger, and could you imagine David Duke and Tiger Woods on the golf course? What side would Donald Trump take? We already know what side he would take, Big C. I do want to say sports is a billion-dollar industry, and boys and girls sports is the foundation to this billion-dollar industry. And for every athletic and sporting event, you need athletic and event insurance. And we work with Ben and Mark. They've been around half a century. They work with Big C Sports, whether you're a pro team, a collegiate team, a high school team, or your mom and pop soccer league. When you reach out to them, let them know that Big C sent you. So, Big C, we look at the world of professional sports in the United States, and I know in the NBA, and we talk about who are the marquee athletes. In fact, you just brought up a point. If you were to go around the world, and you were to ask someone, who's the best fighter in the history of the universe? People would say probably Muhammad Ali. Some people might still say Mike Tyson or whoever. But Muhammad Ali unanimously. If you go around the world and say, well, who's the greatest baseball player of all time? Well, people can say a lot of people. It could be Satchel Paige. If they know enough about that, they may say Barry Bonds. They may say whoever they want to say. If you were to ask someone, even right now, I just brought up guys who retired and some have passed on. If you ask people around the world, who's the best golfer right now in the universe, people wouldn't say Johnson. They wouldn't say Spieth. They still say Tiger Woods. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, it is because he's been so polarizing for the sport, Charlton, because there's been so many guys that have come and gone. I mean, you look at Roy McIlroy, who just hasn't been consistent enough to pan out.
No.
Sergio Garcia's had an up and down decade of playing. Bubba Watson won it twice, but other than winning the Masters, he really hasn't done anything.
No.
Dustin Johnson has not ever reached his potential.
No.
Jordan Spieth has been a flash on the tour. Day, has been up and
Jason
down.
Day, yeah.
We just haven't seen that consistency, Chauncey. Just like when you look at golf.
Yep.
Everybody recognizes Nadal and Djokovic on the male side.
Yeah.
Everyone knew who Serena was on the women's side, Chauncey.
Yeah.
So, it's always a few polarizing people who captivate a sport.
Yep.
But when you talk about baseball, you can go over the eras in baseball. You got Willie Mays, you got Hank Aaron, you got Ty Cobb, Chauncey.
Yep.
You got so many great baseball players, Chauncey. Honus Wagner.
Yeah.
You look at Lou Gehrig. You look at the second baseman that played with the Yankees, DiMaggio.
Yeah.
Babe Ruth. You can go through the eras, Barry Bonds. That there were great players.
Yeah.
There were also players that were flash in the pans that for 1 or 2 years they seemed to be the greatest that they were.
Yeah.
But the thing about those team sports, Dalton, is they just don't resonate enough to hold somebody up in basketball, because of the media generation.
Yep.
Michael Jordan is thought about as the greatest basketball player of all time because he was born in the internet age and played in that internet age.
Yeah.
Players that played prior to that, Charlton, don't get that same consideration. Lou Alcindor.
Yep.
Wilt Chamberlain. When Oscar Robertson, when you think of those players that played in that era, there's players that will never reach the crescendo that they did in this day and age, Charlton.
Right.
But they're not part of that media generation. When you look at football and you look at the great players, Jim Brown will never be recognized by this modern era of players. And viewers, they don't know of a Jim Brown.
Yeah.
They don't know what he went through. You think about Terry Bradshaw winning 4 Super Bowls.
In 6 years.
No one ever speaks of Terry Bradshaw when it comes down to Super Bowl winning quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Bart Starr, who won the first 2 Super Bowls, Charlton, we don't hear these people names. You think about Jim Plunkett, who is not in the Hall of Fame still, a minority quarterback.
That's a shame.
He won the Heisman Trophy.
Yeah.
Number 1 overall draft pick in the NFL in 70. Also won 2 Super Bowls with the Raiders, Charlton.
Yeah.
Not in the Hall of Fame. There's quarterbacks with lesser credentials. But this modern era doesn't know these players, Charlton. You think about players that are not in the Hall of Fame that should have been in the Hall of Fame, but players now, because they were born in the internet generation, are getting voted into the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
And you have a lot of veterans, Jonathan, that are being overlooked who had stellar careers and may never get in, even though the Veterans Committee can vote them in, but they only get 1 player a year that they can vote in.
Well, that's
the problem with people not recognizing greatness and only relying on what somebody tells them, John.
Yeah, that's a very good point. And you brought up that point, too, talking about great athletes in their sports, whether it's a McEnroe or a Yannick Noah, or you look at the Williams sisters, Venus and Serena. But if you look at football, and you just brought up the great Terry Bradshaw, he's gone on to become in broadcasting. I look at what's happening right now in the NFL, where we have, I won't say Hall of Fame, but most likely a Hall of Fame quarterback because of the 2 Super Bowls. Eli Manning, being benched in favor of a backup player, and they're playing the Raiders this week in the Bay Area. They have Derek Carr. You know how TV sells Eli Manning and the New York Giants are Derek Carr and the Oakland Raiders. Well, now coming to Oakland, not having anything to play for outside of trying to keep your job for the coaching staff and of the New York Giants. What's your thought on Eli? You've been talking about it pretty much all season and some of last season, how he's not the Eli of the past. What's taking so long for the coaching staff in the organization to catch up with that thoughts, Big C?
Well, Charlton, I think that the legacy of the name has meant more than anything else.
Results.
As far as what Eli, if you look at Eli's decline, Charlton, over the past couple of years, especially on the interception side, there's been a huge, increase of interception, and that's not recognizing things the way he used to, not having the arm strength that he once had.
Right.
The worst thing about a professional athlete getting old, Charlton, is that your mind is always thinking about what it did 5 years ago, 10 years ago. That you still have that ability. When you look at Eli's best years, they weren't great years in the NFL. They were always quarterbacks with better credentials than what Eli possessed.
Yeah.
But Eli, walked in and got 2 Super Bowl victories, and I just mentioned Jim Plunkett a minute ago, Charles.
Yeah.
Who has 2 Super Bowl victories, but no one talks about Jim Plunkett as a Hall of Fame quarterback.
Yeah.
That's the different standard.
Yep.
No one cried when Jim Plunkett was replaced with the Raiders.
Nope.
No one said this was unjust, that he's being replaced by Mark Wilson,
nope.
a quarterback.
Yeah.
But no one thought about that. It was just Mark Wilson, this big kid out of BYU, is his time.
Yeah.
All right?
And I think
so
also...
when we look at certain quarterbacks, I think of Steve McNair when he was unceremoniously let go by the Tennessee Titans after taking them to a Super Bowl.
To a Super Bowl, yeah. Yep.
And being a tremendous quarterback. And he went on to the Ravens and took them into the promised land, had them, winning titles, division titles.
Yeah.
But no one said anything about the late Steve McNair when he was let go.
That's a good point.
It's amazing how you put certain quarterbacks at a certain level, and, they can't be replaced. When Steve Young was replaced with the 49ers by Jeff Garcia,
yeah,
there was no big uproar. Steve said, I got a concussion, I can't play. I'm not going to go out here and try to fool people.
Yeah.
And so they made that transition.
Yeah.
And, when Eli replaced Kurt Warner, who wasn't playing bad.
Right.
So, that time comes with everybody. You can't sit there and say, well, the guy, because he's had a stellar career.
Yeah.
How do you let a veteran player go, Johnson? That's what I've never understood, because I've been one of those veteran players that's left the game.
Yeah.
How do you let a veteran player go? They say, well, he should go on his own terms. So when you cut a 4th or 5th year player, Charlton, in the league, is he going on his own terms?
No, he's going.
He has 2 Super Bowl rings.
No.
You think about it. How many guys played with the Dallas Cowboys in the 90s when they were winning Super Bowls? Charlton had Super Bowl rings that were cut.
Yeah.
And no one, laid out a big ceremony for him. Charles Haley has 5 Super Bowl rings.
Yeah.
Who cried when Charles Haley was cut, Charlie? He was traded by the 49ers to the Cowboys.
Yeah.
When he was cut by the Cowboys, nobody cried.
They didn't cry. It just goes on.
When Torrey Aikman had to leave from the Cowboys, nobody cried.
No.
Terry Bradshaw was let go by the Steelers.
Yeah.
Nobody cried. He had 4 Super Bowls.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
So that time comes for every quarterback that you got to go.
Well, you look at Montana out on the West Coast, and a lot of people consider Montana, one of the better quarterbacks, played under the Bill Walsh system. Obviously, he had Hall of Fame receivers and running backs around him with Jerry Rice and John Taylor. And you could even say Dwight Clark and then Roger Craig in the backfield. Had Tom Rathman at the time. He was always surrounded by great players. And, of course, he's a good quarterback, too. But when he had Steve Young come to town, it's almost like your girlfriend. You know how down south a lot of you guys have these friendships that are like, whatever they are, they're friendships, Big C. And your girlfriend brings her best friend to hang out with you guys, but sometimes he's just hanging around too long, and he's there trying to get the job you have, and they always tell you after the job has been given that they're not going to need your services. They don't tell you, hey, we're going to bring this guy in behind you in 2 weeks. They bring him in, and they put him in, and you don't get your job back. And not a lot of guys, they don't put up with that. Eli Manning is just like his brother Peyton. When Peyton was told, we're going to bring in this kid from Stanford because he's going to be the next great quarterback, and Andrew Luck, Peyton said, get me the hell out of here. I want to still go out and play, and he ended up in Denver. Big C. Do you see Peyton and Eli having the same kind of track? Do you see Eli ended up somewhere else? Big C, your thoughts?
Charlton, Eli will go somewhere else and play. He will go to a better team and play, and he will be a lot more productive. Well, when you think about the ineptitude that the Giants operate with, Charlton,
yeah,
and Eli's diminishing skills as he's gotten older, you don't get better as a quarterback when you get older. You might get smarter, but you don't get better. That arm strength is not what it was, 10 years ago with Eli Manning. And it's been several years since they've been in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And they made it to the Super Bowl as a wild card team. It wasn't like they were winning the division.
That's right.
That's what no one looks at, is that Eli didn't win the division each time they were in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
They were a wild card team. So it wasn't like he was setting the league on fire.
Yeah.
I mean, he's had a great, stellar career. Don't get me wrong, he has.
Yeah.
But, you think about when the Philadelphia Eagles got rid of Donovan McNabb for a dog fighter, okay?
Yeah.
When they hired Michael Vick.
Okay. I thought it was a matador. He was fighting dogs. I thought he was fighting bulls, but he was fighting dogs. I don't understand the difference between a mule, a dog, and a runner. So I'm learning a lot of things by the Big C Sports Show, Big C.
but see, that's the thing. You think about it. Who does Michael Vick work for now? He works for Fox.
Yeah.
That same network that resonates in the president's mind all the time.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you got the president at your back, you got a dogfighter at your back. So,
Bill O'Reilly.
It's Bill O'Reilly,
Hannity.
A sexual predator.
Yeah.
Hannity.
Yeah.
So you're doing okay as a network.
Yeah.
You're covering all the bases of all the indigents of society. You got them all covered.
They can get a job at Fox, that's for sure. I tell you, Big C, all's fair in love and war. I got to get your thoughts, too. I know we have some of the college football. And, Nick Saban, they say be careful of your words. Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words won't hurt me, or something like that I heard back in the day. Well, I'll never forget the fact that Nick Saban was kind of grandstanding now. He was saying, who cares about the rankings? They don't matter. What matters is on the field. Well, he's made a 180, and because now those words can come back, I think it'd be hard-pressed if we have an honest conversation, and that's what we do. I'm hard-pressed to find 4 teams in the United States of America that are better college football programs than the University of Alabama. But if Alabama doesn't get in, it is because they're trying to go with numbers and postures as opposed to putting the best teams with the best athletes, with the best coach. It might be a little bit, hey, we've seen you this place before. We kind of want a new flavor in the Kool-Aid, Big C. You think if they get left out, that's some of the thinking? Your thoughts?
Well, Charleston, when you think about Alabama, with the 64th strength of schedule, right in the middle of the road in college football, okay?
Yeah.
They're in the middle of the road. It's half above them, half below them.
Yeah.
You think about the rankings as they came out this week. They put 2 teams that Alabama drugged into the rankings.
Yeah.
You put Fresno State at 25.
25. I noticed that.
To increase Alabama's resume.
Yep.
You put Mississippi State, I believe, around 23.
Yeah.
To increase Alabama's resume.
Yeah.
Okay? You got teams that Auburn is number 2 in the country.
Yeah.
That beat Alabama. That enhances Alabama's resume.
Yeah.
So you think about their non-conference schedule, Charleston, Alabama. They played Fresno State.
Yep.
Okay? They played Mercer.
Yeah, Colorado State. Yeah.
They played Colorado State. So when you think about their non-conference schedule, who are they playing? Then you look at the SEC, Charleston.
Yeah.
Who in the SEC, other than 3 teams, are ranked? Okay?
Yeah.
You have Alabama.
Yep.
You have Auburn, who drugged Alabama, and you have Georgia, who Auburn drugged. Okay.
Now let me ask you. Let me ask you, Cito. You follow football without emotion. You just care about the facts, right? If you are looking at college or even NFL talent, do you really believe that let's say Wisconsin, that could go undefeated, could beat Alabama head-to-head competition with the athletes that Wisconsin gets versus Alabama? Your thoughts?
Right now, I do think that Wisconsin could beat Alabama.
Really?
And the main reason why is because they have vulnerability at linebacker.
Yeah.
You look at how Auburn beat them.
Yeah.
Wisconsin plays that same type of offense, Charlton. We're going to smash you in the mouth. They're not scared. We're talking about the biggest offensive line in college football, okay?
Yeah.
You got some guys, and you got a running back who's good for 1,700 yards.
Yeah.
So, that's what happened when they played Auburn, Charlton.
Yeah.
They had a dominant running back, which caused problems for Alabama. When they played Mississippi State, and they had to beat them on the last drive of the game, Charlton, they ran the ball against them.
Yeah.
So that balanced offensive attack, even though it was aided by Stidham's growing up, the second half of the season, who now looks like a veteran quarterback where he looked like a freshman when he lost to Clemson early in the season.
Yeah.
And so Auburn Wisconsin doesn't back down from anybody.
Well, let me
come out and hit you.
Let me get your thoughts on, because we know these teams are going to be talked about. I think they're deciding it today. They're going to decide it obviously after this weekend's over. But as far as rankings, they get solidified, etc. Just give me your thoughts. Clemson's done everything the right way. They've won everything. I mean, they've had 2 hiccups in the last 2 seasons, and they're sitting pretty right now. But can Miami, if Miami loses this game, all the great talk we've had about Miami and the U being back and that, what's that gold chain them good old boys wear, the turnover chain? It might be Cuban Zirconia or whatever it is. It may not be the real McCoy if they get drubbed by Clemson, because Clemson, with that one loss that they had to, I believe it was Syracuse that beat them up at the Syracuse Stadium, and then Miami has a loss on the road at Pittsburgh. But are we seeing where Clemson gets more talent now than Miami, that's in the hotbed of Florida? Is that what we're seeing now, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, Clemson's always been a talented team, Charlton. You know, they haven't been short on the national championship road. They have 2 national championships, Charlton.
Yeah.
You know, under their belt at that university.
Yeah.
One with Homer Jordan playing quarterback, and one last year with,
Watson
playing quarterback.
Yeah.
So they've always had talent. You know, it's just the ACC wasn't looked at like the SEC.
Yep.
But the ACC, ironically, Charlton, is a better conference than SEC when you look at the number of wins and quality teams that they have in that conference. Everybody says, well, the SEC has 3 teams in the top 7.
Yeah.
Yes, they do. But the ACC also has a couple teams in the top 7. And when you look at the lower tier of the conference, they're more prominent, Charlton. They played a better schedule than what the SEC does throughout the year. But this is a game, Charlton, that's a battle. One of these teams will be in the finals.
Yeah.
When you think about it, the winner of this game gets an automatic berth into the finals.
Yeah.
You know, Clemson's ranked in the top 4 in the country. You know, you got to look at Miami. They're in the top 7.
Yeah.
So that you think about it. If you look at the top 4 teams in the country, Charlton, where you'll have Clemson, you'll have Wisconsin, you'll have Auburn, and
Oklahoma.
You'll have Oklahoma.
Yeah.
All 4 of those teams can actually lose when you think about their conference championship.
Isn't that amazing?
That conference championship game, Charlton, really means something.
Yeah. And I tell you, yeah.
And those schools that are not the favorite, they don't care if the other team doesn't make the playoffs.
They don't care.
Honestly don't.
Yeah, that's funny.
We saw that a couple of years ago when Boise was that bubble team and they played the University of Nevada.
Yep.
When Colin Kaepernick was playing against Kellen Moore.
Yep.
And Nevada knocked off Boise in overtime.
Yep.
Which, you know, when you think about conference revenue, if Boise had made that bowl series, the top 6 teams in the country, that's revenue sharing for the conference. They didn't look at it like that. The players don't look at it because the players like, we're not getting the money.
Yeah,
you know?
And that's a good point. So when you think about that, and you just brought up Oklahoma that was shut out last year by Clemson in the Final Four, it's hard to see the same team within that same season and beat them twice. That's hard in the NFL. It's even more difficult in college. And when I look at a team like Oklahoma playing TCU, and I know a lot of people love Oklahoma, but I'm just not high on them because they've won so many close games. They won shootout games where they would have to score. They could give up 40 points and still win. I don't think that kind of team wins a national championship, even though they might win. No one has a crystal ball. But I look at TCU's defense will probably play better. Whether Oklahoma wins or not, they can't go into the Final Four giving up 35 and 40 points and come out victorious in those games. And also that Georgia and that Auburn game, that's a game where I'm not making excuses for them Bulldogs, but sometimes you just get caught sleeping. It's hard to get beat by 3 touchdowns when you play a team twice in one season. Big C, do you agree with that, or does that make any sense at all?
Well, you know, what Auburn has right now, Charlton, and they got it from the team that they lost to early in the year, Clemson.
Yeah.
They have one of the top 2 or 3 defensive lines in the country right now.
Yeah.
That was the difference maker. What does Georgia do well? They run the ball. And you hold this team that rushes for close to 300 yards a game, Charlton, to a mere under 80 yards a game rushing.
Yeah.
That was the difference. And, you know, you're playing against a freshman quarterback.
Yeah.
So this defensive line for Auburn is the difference maker.
Yeah.
Even if they have to play, they'll play Georgia again this weekend.
Yeah.
But Georgia has to find a way to change up their offensive running scheme. Now, Auburn's top running back may not be in the game because of an injury he just suffered in this last game, Charlton, against Alabama.
Yeah.
But Garrett Stidham, we talked about him a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
How he has grown up at quarterback. Now, this is a kid that started his career at Baylor.
Yeah.
A high-powered passing offense under Art Browse. When he came to the SEC, they wanted to take away what he came to college for, is to throw the football. They wanted him to be a game manager.
Yeah.
And if you look at the last 5 games where they released Garrett Stidham, and he's been able to throw the ball.
Yeah.
That's the difference in the SEC. You go back to Kelly, who played in Mississippi for a couple of years.
Yeah.
How he dominated the SEC in throwing the football. Johnny Manziel won a Heisman Trophy throwing the football in the SEC.
Yeah.
So this is the conference that weren't used to quarterbacks like that, Charlton. And when you get a dominant passer in the SEC,
yeah,
you can challenge anybody.
Yeah, that's a good point, too. No matter who we see, I love this time of year. It is great to see where it's decided on the field. I know Division II, they're doing it on the field all the time, but we don't have that same thing in Division I. We're still trying to vote teams to see who's going to be where. Right now, we have the point spread, according to whatever poll you look at. Clemson's favored by 7 over Miami. You have Ohio State favored by 5 over Wisconsin. Oklahoma's favored by 6 over TCU, and we'll have to see where that ball bounces because, Big C, there's always someone being knocked off in the top 10, and I don't think it's going to be any different this weekend coming up. Last thing I want to touch on in the NBA, I know there's so much talk about what team's on a winning streak, what team's going to win the NBA championship. Golden State didn't have Steph Curry last night, didn't have Kevin Durant, and they fall at home to Sacramento for the first time, I think, since 2013. Ironically, they gave Matt Barnes an NBA championship ring because he played with the Kings last year, ended up being sent over to Golden State, and then they wait to give him his championship ring when the Sacramento Kings came to town. Was that a snub at the Sacramento Kings, Big C? Does that make any sense?
Well, Charlton, if you look around all professional sports, and you would not realize how many players have championship rings that nobody knows about.
Yeah, yeah.
Matt Barnes does a couple games, all of a sudden he gets a championship ring. Charlton.
Yeah.
Who knows who the number 4 and 5 players at the end of the bench are for the Golden State Warriors?
Yeah.
No one knows who they are, but they have championship rings 2 out of the last 3 years.
Yeah.
So, this is not an uncommon thing. You think about professional football. We all recognize the 22 starters in professional football.
Yeah, yeah.
The Super Bowl last year, Charlton.
Yeah.
The Patriots won the Super Bowl. Anybody know anyone other than the top 25 players on the Patriots roster?
That's a good point.
No one knows who they are.
Yeah.
And even the year before when the Broncos won it, we knew who the starters were on offense and defense.
Yeah.
But there was another 25 players, Charlton, that no one even knows who they are that has Super Bowl rings.
Yeah.
So when somebody gets a championship ring, Charlton, the ceremonial part that we all look at are the starters. Everybody knew Durant, Curry, Thompson, Green, were on the roster.
Yeah.
But beyond that point, Charlton, it's almost irrelevant. When somebody gets a ring, they walk around, they have the rings. And I know a lot of guys who have rings that never even dressed out.
Yeah.
Think about this, Charlton.
Yeah.
On an NFL practice roster.
Yeah.
And all the teams carry, 8 to 15 players on the practice roster.
Yeah.
They all get a ring.
Yep.
When you win the Super Bowl, they all get a ring. They never dress throughout the season, but they get a ring because they're part of the organization.
Yeah, that's
true. So they walk around with these lavish rings, and you think about a guy who was labored in the league 10 or 12 years.
Yeah.
Who never even made the playoffs and never got a championship ring. You look at the NFL Hall of Fame, Charlton.
Yeah.
How many Super Bowl winners are in the NFL Hall of Fame? There's less Super Bowl winners in the Hall of Fame than there are people in the Hall of Fame, Charlton.
That's a good point.
Percentage-wise.
Yeah, that's a good point.
There's more people in the Hall of Fame without a Super Bowl ring than there are people in the Hall of Fame with a Super Bowl ring.
Yeah.
Think about that.
Yeah, that's a good point. Obviously, you got to get the right team and the right timing. It all comes down to timing. I want to get your thoughts, LeBron James. I think there's all this talk about Boston running away. Boston got blown out by the New York Knicks, and you look at Cleveland; they've won 8 in a row now. And I know you talked about this earlier. LeBron James is still a dominant player, whether he has Kyrie Irving or whether he has Isaiah Thomas that's going to play when he gets healthy again. And I want to get your thoughts. Is he making a statement that I'm still the king? And doesn't matter who you are as a player. When you get all the calls by the officiators, Big C, that means you're still the king. Is my book. Your thoughts?
Well, some of the things you just give by the grace of stature, Charles.
Yeah.
You get to do a few things that other people don't get a chance to do.
Like foul people.
But the king is the king, Charles.
Yeah.
He has been what he is.
Yeah.
And, it goes back to the Larry Bird thing. Did they come here to watch me play or come here to watch you call fouls and travels?
That's true.
And LeBron is always much see TV.
Yeah.
You have to sit down when the Cavaliers are on television.
Yep.
That's a highly rated game. Just like when Golden State's on television, it's a highly rated game.
Yeah.
But you tune in for LeBron. If you know LeBron is not going to play, you're not all that interested in watching the Cavaliers, Charlton. They're a middle-of-the-road team.
Yeah, that's true.
But, on any night, he can go out and get you a double-double, triple-double, that's what greatness does. You know, players have ascended to certain positions and status throughout the history of the league, whether you go back 40, 50 years or whether you go back 10 to 20 years. There's always those ascending players, Charlton, that make the league what it is. You need these players. There's certain teams that you don't even, you know, Utah last year won over 50 games.
Yeah, they did.
How many times were they on national television?
Not a lot.
Not one.
Yeah,
we didn't see them on national television. Not one time, Charlton.
That's true.
The Toronto Raptors, we didn't see them on national television for 3 consecutive years. They won over 50 games.
Yeah.
The relevancy of certain players, Charlton, that are must-see television. Who plays on Christmas Day every year? Who? The Cleveland Cavaliers.
Yep. They'll be doing it again this year.
That's America's Christmas present from the NBA. We're going to show you the great one.
Yeah, that's funny, Big C, because you always have these marquee games, and I love it. That's why we love this business, and that's why I love everything that Big C Sports is all about, whether it's football, basketball, baseball, track and field, soccer, the Olympics, the MMA. We even talk a little bit of politics every now and then, Big C. Back in the day, there was a man by the name of Drew Bandini Brown. He was Muhammad Ali's right-hand man. He would always tell Ali, with all you got to use, how can you lose? Rumble, young men rumble. Big C, what are you looking forward to in the sports universe?
Well, Charlton, ironically, if the NFL playoffs were to start today, the Baltimore Ravens would be in.
Wow.
You think about the 6 teams that the Baltimore Ravens have beaten this year. None of those teams have a winning record, and the average quarterback rating between those 6 teams is 35.8. 35.8. Colin Kaepernick, not playing in the NFL this year, had a 94-95 QBR rating last season.
That's an amazing fact. In fact, I hear they can also Google that. In fact, and also Googling every Monday through Friday at 5 and 6 p.m. worldwide. Follow Big C Sports on the Big C Sports Network, the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C and them good old boys down south. As we always tell you, there's never, ever any excuse for domestic violence. If you know any woman going through that garbage, please call 911, because no woman should have to go through that garbage all on her own. And as we tell you on every Big C Sports show, we thank you, we appreciate you, and we hope that you have a super fantastic day.